watching World News Program coming to you live from Algiers. I'm Madame Zien, and these are the top stories for tonight. Dead and wounded in Zionist U.S. attacks on the Iranian city of Tabriz. Tehran announces targeting Dimona and other areas deep inside the Zionist entity again, and also reveals the appointment of Mohammad Bagher Zolgard as the Secretary of the Iranian National Security Council. The Revolutionary Guard warns no crossing of the Strait of Hormuz without Iranian coordination. The European Union calls for immediate negotiations with Iran to end the closure of the strait, and Germany says that Trump's talks with Iran are a turning point in the war. The latest developments regarding the Zionist aggression against Lebanon. Hezbollah affirms its commitment to fighting to prevent the entity from occupying southern Lebanon. The Lebanese Ministry of Health reveals reports over 1,070 martyrs in ongoing aggression. The United Nations says that approximately 1.2 million Lebanese have fled their homes due to the war. At the end of the Algeria-Niger Joint High Commission for Cooperation, Algeria and Niamey signed agreements and memoranda of understanding. Prime Minister Sifi Ghraib affirmed that major projects are essential pillars for strengthening regional integration, and Niger's premier praised the total convergence of views on various issues. Hello and welcome back. Iran's Tasnim news agency reported that 9 people were killed and 28 others injured in a U.S.-Israeli attack on Tabriz area early Tuesday, in addition to damage caused to 20 homes. Earlier, East Azerbaijan's governor reported 8 killed and dozens injured in a strike on a residential area. And Iran's Revolutionary Guard announced having launched the 79th wave of True Promise 4 operation. An IRGC statement said the attack used powerful missiles including Khaybar, Shikan, Imad, and Sijil, along with drones. It claimed the strikes penetrated multi-layered air defenses and targeted intelligence sites and what it described as secure areas in the occupied territories. Iran's Revolutionary Guard said missile systems and drones targeted Zionist sites in occupied Palestine and some U.S. military bases in the region as part of the 78th wave of True Promise 4 operation, claiming accurate hits. The statement added that Imad and Ghadr missiles with multiple warheads along with drones struck military targets in Eilat, Dimona, and northern occupied Palestine, as well as U.S. bases, noting that most of its combat units have not yet entered the conflict. U.S. and Zionist forces carried out overnight attacks targeting 2 energy facilities in Isfahan and Khorramshahr, according to Iranian media. Iran's Fars news agency said the strikes hit a gas administration building and a gas pressure station in Isfahan, causing damage to parts of the facilities and nearby homes, and also targeted a gas pipeline linked to a power plant in Khorramshahr. Just hours after Trump announced he would not attack Iranian energy infrastructure, 2 of these facilities were targeted by U.S.-Israeli airstrikes. This is one step forward on a looming energy crisis that many countries globally started feeling its repercussions, especially amidst the closure of the Strait of Hormuz. Osama Ayadi has more.
Global energy markets face limitless uncertainty amid the ongoing war in Iran and the closure of the Strait of Hormuz. Reports of fresh strikes on Iranian infrastructure overwhelmed media outlets just hours after U.S. President Donald Trump stated that attacks on such facilities would be delayed. Iranian state media reported that 2 energy-related sites were hit in joint U.S. Zionist airstrikes, One strike targeted infrastructure near Karmashar, affecting a gas pipeline and nearby power-related facilities. Additional strikes were reported around Isfahan, a key industrial region, with Zionist officials reportedly claiming responsibility for operations across multiple areas in Iran.
It's probably the most significant crisis since the Arab oil embargo in the 70s. And every day it continues. It's actually beginning to look even more dramatic.
The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps warned that any attack on Iran's power infrastructure could lead to retaliation. It suggested that power facilities in neighboring countries supplying electricity to U.S. bases might be targeted, raising fears of wider regional escalation and disruptions to energy systems beyond Iran. These latest developments add to an already fragile global energy environment shaped by overlapping crises, the war in Iran, ongoing Ukrainian strikes on Russian oil infrastructure, and a recent refinery outage in the United States.
The main problem for the markets is that Iran has closed the Strait of Hormuz, through which 20% of global oil is transiting. But it's more than this. On top of that, there have been extensive damage to oil facilities in Saudi Arabia, in Qatar, in Kuwait, in the UAE, and even if the Strait of Hormuz reopens tomorrow, it will take much longer to resume normal supplies.
Energy analysts note that even limited or localized strikes on infrastructure can have disproportionate effects on global markets, particularly when they occur in key production and transit regions. Oil prices have remained volatile amid the uncertainty. While many countries are already living the results of a war many consider unnecessary.
So unless this kind of stops somehow miraculously in the next few days, we're going to see a very big jump in prices in every single material around the world, from energy to food, because actually farmers depend on fertilizers, and there's a lot of fertilizers that are being produced in the region. There's a lot of scarcity which is coming our way if it doesn't stop fairly quickly.
As tensions persist, the targeting of energy infrastructure underscores the growing role of energy warfare in modern conflict. Whether the latest incidents mark a shift in military strategy or reflect ongoing ambiguity in policy signals, their impact on global energy stability is already being felt.
Iran said it has precise maps of Zionist shelters, warning that any attack on Iranian residential areas would justify targeting those shelters. According to Tasnim news agency citing Revolutionary Guard intelligence, Tehran stated that attacks on Iranian civilians would be faced with strikes on shelter or settler shelters, calling it a legitimate response. And then Iranian presidential media official announced the appointment of Mohammad Bagher Zolkadr as Secretary of the Supreme National Security Council in replacement of the late Ali Larijani. The same source added that the appointment was approved by Supreme Leader Ayatollah Mujtaba Khamenei. Bahrain's Interior Ministry said civil defense teams extinguished a fire at a company facility caused by what it described as an Iranian attack. This came after authorities sounded sirens and urged residents to stay calm and move to the nearest space or the nearest safe place. Qatar reaffirmed its support for all diplomatic efforts to end the ongoing Middle East war following U.S. President Donald Trump's surprise announcement of talks with Iran. At a press conference in Doha, Foreign Ministry spokesperson Majid al-Ansari said Qatar backs both official and unofficial channels, but denied any direct Qatari mediation between the two sides.
As you know, Qatar's position from day one has been clear regarding ending this war through diplomatic means. This is our stance on all conflicts worldwide. All conflicts are ultimately resolved at a negotiating table, and the sooner negotiations begin, the fewer casualties and losses there will be. Therefore, there is no justification for delaying diplomatic solutions. Consequently, we support all diplomatic efforts in this regard, whether through official or unofficial channels, and anything that can lead to a diplomatic end to this war.
And the UN Human Rights Council will hold an urgent session Wednesday to discuss the impact of recent Iranian strikes on Gulf countries. A Tuesday statement said several countries will present a draft resolution regarding what it called Iran's recent military aggression against Bahrain, Jordan, Kuwait, Oman, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE, targeting civilians and civilian infrastructure and causing deaths. Iran's Revolutionary Guard Navy said that passage through the Strait of Hormuz requires full coordination with Tehran. Commander Ali Reza Tankisturi stated that the container ship Selene was turned back for not complying with legal protocols and lacking a transit permit, emphasizing that all ships must coordinate with Iran's naval authority to pass through the waterway. The European Union called for negotiations with Iran to end what it described as hostile actions in the Middle East. Speaking at a press conference in Canberra with Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said the situation threatens global energy supply lines and stressed the need for a negotiated solution to end regional hostilities.
We think that it is time to go to the negotiation table and to end the hostilities. The situation is critical for the energy supplies worldwide. We all feel the knock-on effects on gas and oil prices, our businesses and our societies. But it is of utmost importance that we come to a solution that is negotiated, and this puts an end to the hostilities that we see in the Middle East.
And Germany said U.S. President Donald Trump's announcement of talks with Iran may mark a turning point in the ongoing conflict with Iran over the past month. German Foreign Minister Johann Wadephul told regional broadcaster MDR that he believes Trump held serious discussions with Iran, noting the previous threat to strike Iranian energy facilities was postponed. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said Monday that Kiev has undeniable evidence that Russia continues to supply Iran with intelligence. After a meeting with the head of military intelligence, Zelensky noted on X that Russia is using its cyber and intelligence capabilities along with data obtained through Middle Eastern partners, adding in a later evening video that there is growing evidence of Russia's ongoing support to Iran.
There is growing evidence that the Russians continue to provide the Iranian regime with intelligence support. This is clearly destructive activity and must be stopped, as it only leads to further destabilization. All responsible states are interested in ensuring security and preventing bigger problems. Markets are already reacting negatively, and this is significantly complicating the fuel situation in many countries.
Oil prices rose Tuesday amid supply concerns after Iran denied talks with the U.S. to end the Gulf conflict, contradicting U.S. President Donald Trump's statement that an agreement could happen soon. Brent crude futures rose $1.25 to $101.19 per barrel, while U.S. West Texas Intermediate climbed $2.15 to $90.28 per barrel. Russian presidential spokesperson Dmitry Peskov said Moscow views any expansion of the conflict escalation zone in Iran to the Caspian Sea region very negatively. Peskov noted that Russia is monitoring a series of conflicting statements about the situation in Iran, but the reality on the ground remains unclear. He added that Iran had expressed readiness for talks before the first strike and remained open to continuing them.
Some contradict others, and we do not know what the situation actually is. As for Iran's openness to peaceful negotiations, Iran has demonstrated this in practice. In fact, until the very last minute, until the outbreak of hostilities, until the moment of the first strike against Iran, Tehran remained open to continuing negotiations, and those talks were in fact making fairly good progress. Russia would view an escalation of the situation into the Caspian region extremely negatively. First of all, but as for the specific reports about an allegedly Israeli attack on boats in the Caspian Sea, we have not heard them, and frankly, I do not have any information on this matter.
Also, 15 people were killed and 30 injured in airstrikes on a popular mobilization forces site in Anbar province, western Iraq. The PMF said the Anbar operations commander Saad Dawei and 14 fighters were killed in what it was called a treacherous US strike on their headquarters while carrying out national duty. And 6 Peshmerga fighters were killed in rocket attacks early Tuesday on their headquarters in Erbil, Kurdistan region of Iraq. According to AFP, citing a security source, at least 6 were killed, 2 remain missing, and 20 were injured in the strike targeting the 7th Division camp. Local Rudao TV reported the attacks occurred in 2 separate timings early Tuesday. Iran's Revolutionary Guard on Tuesday threatened the Zionist entity with powerful missile and drone strikes if attacks on civilians in Lebanon and Palestine continue. The statement warned that continued crimes against civilians would make Israeli forces targets of these strikes. Lebanon's foreign ministry summoned Iran's chargé d'affaires Toufir Samadi Hoshoko and informed him that Lebanon has withdrawn approval for Iran's appointed ambassador Mohammad Reza Sheibani, declaring him persona non grata and ordering him to leave by next Sunday. The ministry also summoned Lebanon's ambassador to Iran, Ahmed Swaidan, for consultations, citing what it described as Tehran's violation of diplomatic norms between the two countries. Hassan Fadlallah, senior Hezbollah lawmaker, said the group will fight to prevent Israeli forces from occupying southern Lebanon. In remarks to Reuters Tuesday, Fadlallah described such an occupation as an existential threat to Lebanon. Israel's government reportedly instructed its forces to establish a so-called security zone in southern Lebanon, extending to the southern Litani River. Lebanon's health ministry reported that casualties from the renewed Israeli attacks have risen to 1,270 dead and 2,966 injured between March 2nd and 24th. The ministry's daily operations report Tuesday said 33 more were killed and 90 injured in the past 24 hours, including 121 children killed and 382 children wounded. The United Nations highlighted a severe displacement crisis in Lebanon, forcing over 1 million people to flee their homes, with more than 130,000 internally displaced, including 46,000 children in collective shelters across the country. UN spokesperson Stéphane Dujarric said Monday in New York that humanitarian partners warned these numbers could rise amid escalating hostilities, and Israel's announced plans to intensify ground operations along the Blue Line. In other news, Algerian Prime Minister Sifi Ghrieb was received Tuesday by Nigerian President Abdurrahman Chani. Ghrieb conveyed President Abdelmajid Tebboun's greetings and commitment to strengthening brotherly ties and cooperation. President Tiani expressed gratitude for Tebboun's ongoing support and recalled his February visit to Algeria, which boosted bilateral relations and cooperation across various sectors. The meeting was also an opportunity to examine the outcomes of the second session of the Algeria-Niger High Joint Cooperation Committee.
لقد تشرفت اليوم بمقابلة فخامة الرئيس.
Today, I had the honor of meeting with His Excellency President Abdurrahman Chiani, to whom I conveyed the greetings of his brother, the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune. I also reaffirmed his personal commitment and the strong support he attaches to developing bilateral relations with the sisterly Republic of Niger. This occasion provided me with an opportunity to listen to the various valuable analyses of President Chiani on means and ways to strengthen cooperation between our two countries and leveraging their potential and areas of integration to enhance bilateral cooperation in line with the vision agreed upon with his brother, President Abdelmajid Tebboune.
Also, Algerian Prime Minister Safi Gharieb and Nigerian Prime Minister Ali Lamin Zein oversaw the signing of more than 20 agreements across key strategic sectors between the two countries. The agreements cover energy and renewable energy, industry and trade, higher education, construction and public works, among other areas. Algerian Prime Minister Safi Gharieb said the second session of the Algeria-Niger High Joint Cooperation Committee allowed assessment of major joint projects including the Trans-Saharan gas pipeline, the Trans-Saharan road and the fiber optic connectivity project. He reiterated that Algeria considers these strategic projects as key pillars for regional integration and supporting development across Africa.
لقد أحرزنا خلال هذه الفترة.
During this period and the current session, we have achieved remarkable progress on a number of important files. Our assessment of the progress of major joint projects, most notably the Trans-Saharan gas pipeline project, the Trans-Saharan road, and the fiber optic network project, confirms our shared commitment to making these strategic projects fundamental pillars for strengthening regional integration and supporting the development path in our African continent.
For his part, Niger's Prime Minister Ali Lamin Zein praised the significant potential of Algeria and Niger across multiple sectors, highlighting the countries' shared perspectives on issues of mutual interest. At the closing of the second session of Algeria-Niger High Joint Cooperation Committee, he expressed satisfaction with the level of social, economic, and political cooperation between the two nations.
Nous avons eu des discussions fructueuses.
We held constructive discussions in an atmosphere of good neighborliness and respect, in line with African traditions. This is the appropriate occasion to express our full appreciation and satisfaction with the spirit that prevailed. We discussed numerous projects reflecting our cooperation across social, economic, and political fields. This meeting also allowed us to explore potential opportunities that such cooperation can offer. The implementation of our decision can further strengthen our multi-sectoral relations. I am pleased with the full convergence of views that emerged in defining our priorities and in the approach to implementing our commitments.
Algerian Prime Minister Safi Gharieb called on Algerian and Niger business leaders to achieve economic alignment between the two brotherly countries. Speaking at the opening of the Algeria-Niger Business Forum in Niamey alongside Nigerian Prime Minister Ali Lamin Zein, he said political alignment between Algeria and Niger requires economic strengthening and cooperation.
وأنا متأكد جدا بأن
I'm very certain that the roadmap you will endorse will provide a real boost, allowing us to move from diplomatic to economic agreement, which is what is needed. I urge something very important, that this visit culminates in practical agreements through which we can achieve all the aspirations expected from us by both peoples and both leaderships.
That's a wrap of our news edition. Thank you for your kind attention.